Welcome to SRIRAM IAS Academy. Today, I'm going to start a topic from good governance, and this is coming under the area of the paper 2, polity governance and IR. In that, I'm going to start the areas like good governance. Okay, and when you're looking into the concept like good governance, one minute. One second, just a second. Yeah. So today, now I'm going to continue the topic from paper to governance area. In that governance area, I'm going to start the way how the concept regarding good governance as a one which is helping students in various way. Okay, so that only I need to discuss. So when I'm going to start the topic like good governance, in what way, first of all, the questions will come in UPSC mains and how the way it appeared in UPSC already. At the very beginning of 2013 and 14, when UPSC added this topic in the syllabus, so they asked some kind of random question that in what way this particular topic of good governance connected with the policy formulation and policy making, or in other sense, generally they will ask some kind of questions regarding the e-governance and all. Okay, e-governance and all. So this is a way only general process will come into exist when you are looking into the idea of good governance and all. But now the most important thing is that the way how UPSC asked the previous year question paper in terms of the good governance topic in the recent past is moving in a different direction. For example, when I'm looking into the topic of good governance, here the way how the governance as a concept interconnected with the information and communication technology. So there is another important thing how the way the information and communication technologies and all going into exist. Okay. And apart from this, in what way the e-governance mechanism as a one, which is also going into exist. So like this manner only, the UPSC started asking some type of question from here. Okay. So this is another most important thing. Just a second, I will take the slide so you can able to watch this one. Okay. Sorry. This is the one. So when I'm going to start this particular topic like good governance and all. Just a second. So when I'm going to look into the topic like good governance, I already told you the way how the governance as a topic asked by UPS. In two way, I can able to say that when I'm going to start the entire paper to area, the first five questions from the area of polity, and after that I can able to. This is the way only the layers. First 5 to 6 questions sometimes. Generally, I can able to say the first five question number till question number 5 will come into the category of polity. Okay. Then after that, question number 6 to 10, or in very particular way, the way how the question number 9 and 10 will come into the nature of international relations, and 19 and 20 also both 9 and 10 or 16 again into the nature of the governance and social justice and all. So in this perspective, when I'm going to talk the topic like governance, the very necessary point that in two way you have to approach. One was the traditional one at the initial ages of the 2013, 14, 15 and all, the way how UPSC asked about good governance in simple manner. By the way, directly there was some question regarding the good governance practices or the e-governance practices and other related mechanism in terms of the way how the total quality mechanism or the total quality services the government want to provide to their people. One side. On the other side, in the recent past, for the past 2-3 years, the way how questions also appeared in UPSC. Take it as an example, MGNREGA scheme and connected with the direct benefit transfer schemes. And what way from the area of MGNREGA or any type of direct benefit transfer schemes and all is going to enhance the concept like good governance, or in general manner with the help of the good governance initiative, how the way the process regarding the good governance mechanism of transparency and accountability as well as social responsiveness is coming into force. So in two way, you can either a question may come directly, or in second sense, I can able to say when I'm going to start a topic like governance, the topic like governance or the topic like good governance, this is a formula you have to make it. Good governance in the sense that it need to classify it into the category of transparency plus accountability plus social responsiveness. First point in your mains examination, you need to give like this. Good governance means transparency and accountability and social responsiveness. And going to continue the idea of transparency. The various mechanisms are there. We can able to say the right to information is a kind of tool, or other various things in the name of citizen charter, or I can able to say the e-governance mechanism. These are all the major things as per our UPSC syllabus. And when I'm going to look into the area of the accountability mechanism, just a second, the accountability mechanism, here, the way how the question hour in parliament, parliamentary committees and all will come under the nature of accountability, and going for the area of the social responsibility, how after 73rd and 74th Constitutional Amendment Act, on the basis of that, the way how the initiative regarding the social auditing is a kind of mechanism. So in three way, transparency in terms of e-governance, good governance, right to information, citizen charter. Accountability in terms of the various question hour mechanism and all. So that is another important thing. And social responsibility wise, the social auditing. So when I'm compelling all these three area, I can able to achieve the concept of good governance. Okay, as per the UPSC syllabus, and you have to discuss the various tools and techniques below this good governance in terms of the e-governance initiative. But what the way how UPSC is asking at present after 2018 and all, connecting the e-governance mechanism, the information and communication technology with the alignment of the idea of the good governance practices. So connecting both the things, how the way the tools and how the way the governance practices, comparing both, you will get some kind of idea, and the way how information and communication technology, last year mains question, this year mains question, that the way how the ideas regarding the direct benefit transfer scheme is another ICT kind of things, and the basis of that some questions are appearing. So in this perspective, when I'm going to start the concept like good governance, and as the point of view of books and all the materials in our country is talking about the concept of good governance in various ways. But if I want to go in a very particular manner, the good governance is a type of idea only came into exist after 1989, when the World Bank came with the concept of the good governance, when they want to discuss about their member countries and all, on the basis of there are some kind of organization like United Nations Economic and Social Commission for Asia Pacific, we will say UNESCAP. On the basis of this UNESCAP type of organization, the UN bodies and the World Bank gave ideas regarding what is good governance and all. But even later part, after 1990s, the era of LPG, liberalization, privatization, globalization. So during that era, from 1991 onwards, the beginning of the modern era, there the definition of what is good governance with the help of World Bank document upon sub-Saharan African region also came into existence. This is the traditional one as per the definition of the books and materials. But if I want to look into the matter of good governance, so I have to go to the way how the first time in the French society around the 14th century. The way how the concept of good governance is an idea of mean a seat of government. There, the good governance mean it is a seat of government. On the basis of that only, the concept like good governance came into exist from the very beginning of 14th century onwards. But when I'm going to look into the Indian perspective, like even Mahatma Gandhi, the way how he mentioned about the idea of good governance on the basis of Sarvodaya, with the help of Sarvodaya, the common good beneficial to all the people will come into force. On the basis of that principle, even every village is act like a independent and as a republic and all. This is another important thing. And apart from this, when I'm moving further, there are some more kind of ideas we can able to look into when you are going to consider about the perspective of good governance and all. And before going to start, I just want to take a help from the international relations. So I already told you it was in 1989 the World Bank document. Then later in 1992, very particularly the World Bank defined the concept of good governance. But before that, when I'm going to see the Mahatma Gandhi's idea at the time of independence, or I can able to go and revisit the topic in public administration, where the topic like good governance borrowed it into GS area. So in this perspective, the way how Arthasastra in that Kautilya or Vishnugupta or whatever the term modern term, the Chanakya, you can able to say how he talked about the ideas of good governance in various perspective and parameters. So you need to highlight those kind of ideas also one side. But in a simple manner, when I want to look into the concept of good governance, when I want to look into the concept of good governance, the most important thing, it is not neither the area of the World Bank document or other various perspective, but I can able to go and borrow this idea of good governance the way in 1971, the fourth king of Bhutan, Mr. Jigme Wangchuk, at the age of 13 to 14, the young king, after the sudden death of his father, he became the king of Bhutan. On the basis of that, the king want to do certain things, the constitutional duty. While doing so, he was not happy because at the young age, he want to do in his own way, playing games and all. But unfortunately, sudden death of father make him as a king of Bhutan. On the basis of that, he started thinking about the way how the happiness kind of things are happening. The king is everything in Bhutan, but he was not happy. So he started thinking about his people and he came with an idea of a happiness index, first time in the modern world. And while discussing about the happiness index, the king Jigme Wangchuk very specifically mentioned about the idea of good governance even in 1971 along with the principles of sustainable development, preserving the cultural identity, taking care of the biodiversity and ecology and all. These are all some more example we can able to say while discussing about the concept of good governance in the very recent past. Then after that, the way how the World Bank in 1992, initially it was in 1989, but very specifically in 1992, they came with an idea of what is good governance. Governance means in simple manner, the concept regarding development and the developmental perspective, the way how the government are going to take some kind of idea to taking care of the essential component of economic, political and social and all will come into the nature of good governance. But in general means, when I'm going to look into the idea of good governance, people will say good governance is nothing. It is a area which is very much related to the all the branches of social science. Good governance, you are not going to study only in polity, but also in administration, but also in economy, but also in other various perspective of society and social justice, even in ethical principle. In UPSC point of view, these subjects are interconnected with good governance. In the same manner, when I'm going to talk about good governance in a very general manner, this is the topic which very much related to the aspect of all the branches of social science. And some people will say good governance means what? It is an action or manner oriented governing people. And it is an action, the way how the government is going to make action, the way how the government is going to govern the people. On the basis of that only you can able to talk about good governance. Because a lot of countries are having constitution and some countries are having written and some countries are having unwritten. It is not the sense that all the countries which is having constitution will practice the means of constitutionalism. Constitutionalism is an idea of limiting a government, and where the constitution is existing, there are maybe a possibility of existence of constitutionalism, and this constitutionalism is providing a limitation to the government. In those sector, in those perspective, we can able to talk about the idea of good governance, where the limitation of the government comes into force. That limited government always give consideration towards the idea of good governance. So in this manner, when the limited government is going to provide welfare to the people, well-being to the people, in this manner, I can able to say this limited government which is providing governance is not a static one. It is a dynamic one. It will keep on change from time to time, space to space, place to place, and society to society. So this is the way when I want to look into the idea of good governance, there is always possibility in the context of misgovernance, you can able to better understand the idea of good governance. And other than that, even when I'm going to look into the idea of UNESCO, United Nations Economic and Social Council of Asia Pacific, they also very specifically told that when I want to define the process of good governance, it is nothing but it is a process itself in order to make a decisions. It is a process of decision making. On the basis of it is a type of process by which the decisions also implemented within a society. How the way the government is going to implement a good governance mechanism or good welfare mechanism or good government policies and all. On the basis of that, you can able to identify the existence of good governance. So in this manner, when I'm going to look into the concept of good governance, there is always a possibility that three distinctive characters we can able to identify with an idea of good governance. One is the government which is also having a political regime in the name. For example, political regime means the parliamentary form, the presidents and the military or the civilian or all other interconnected concept should have the governance aspect. And second important thing, on the basis of the governance process, the authorities which is existing inside a society will manage and maintain a particular methodology of the system. On the basis of that, they will maintain and manage the economic resources of the country and social resources of the country is another important thing. On the basis of that only, you can able to see the second aspect of governance. And the third important thing, the capacity of government to design and formulate and implement policies. It is a capacity of the government to design, formulate and implement those kind of policies will also come under the category of the good governance mechanism. So in this perspective, the way how in 1990s, the World Bank decided to go for the idea of good governance. There is a simultaneous process. The background you need to understand. When I look into the world scenario during 89 to 91, 1989 to 91, the disintegration of Soviet Russia came into existence. On the basis of the disintegration of Soviet Russia or the downfall of Soviet Russia, the world scenario of the bipolar world or Cold War mentality has disappeared, and the unipolarity and the hegemony of capitalism or America came into existence. So the Soviet Russia, which practiced socialism, went down. Sorry. And the state like USA, which is practicing the methods of liberalism or capitalism, came into existence. So based on this perspective, the capitalism led into the nature of liberty and liberalism and liberal principle, by the way, how it gave importance to privatization, globalization, and liberalization as a key parameter. On the basis of that, the world also moved from the category of bipolarity into the hegemony of USA, the single domination of USA, and under their hegemony, the capitalism became the strong force. So based on that, the formation of World Trade Organization also came into exist within few years of 1995. WTO came into exist. So 91, the formation of the LPG era came into. So it became compulsory for the world country to practice those dictation usually given by the Bretton Woods institution like World Bank and IMF. And through this idea only, the World Bank came with an idea of LPG in terms of good governance, and India accepted. In order to manage that LPG practices, India created an idea of look east policy to look into the eastern neighborhood of the Southeast Asia to manage the competition in the name of globalization process, which is going to come from Europe to India, American continent to India. So India moved into that. So during that background work, you have to consider the idea of good governance. So in this way only, the practice of good governance become the most important thing for the development of economic parameter as well as the human development as well as the institutional setup and all. On the basis of that, everyone decided that if I want to achieve the key governance practices inside this world, then definitely the concept like good governance and conceptualization of good governance need to come into force. So from the perspective of the concept of good governance into the conceptualization of good governance. So I need to consider certain important key terms. Making concept is easy. But when I'm going to make the conceptualization process of that idea, definitely we need some key strong support from the basic elements. So in this way, when I'm going to conceptualize the idea of good governance, the foremost important parameter comes into force in the name of political accountability. Through the good governance, the conceptualization of good governance is going to strengthen the mechanism of political accountability. First and foremost important thing, reducing corruption. People will ask question on behalf of the people, their representatives will ask question. These are all some more things we need to consider. And it is an idea of liberalization, privatization. So that induces another key element in the name of freedom of association and participation. Not only the government, but also private, but also public, and all the different section of the group will also participate in the process of governance, because now it is not only liberalization, privatization is another important idea. So in this perspective, when I'm looking good governance is having the element of that formation, freedom of association. And the third important thing is that the way how those legal framework, good governance can able to bring it with the people, on the basis of that, that can able to strengthen the mechanism of rule of law and independent judiciary and all to achieve the concept of basic human rights, social justice and right against exploitation. So when I already told about the idea of constitutionalism with the help of the limited government, and those limited government are the one which exists with the principles of rule of law. That is another important thing. So the rule of law is a basic idea which can able to interconnect it with an idea of existence of constitution and through the methods of constitutionalism. So this is another most important idea. If I want to bring the good governance, the existence of constitutionalism on the basis of rule of law, and when I'm going to look into the rule of law, that will strengthen the mechanism of protecting the human rights of every individual with the alignment of judiciary, securing the process of social justice and against the exploitation, because when liberalization comes, privatization comes, there may be a possibility of the industrialization process of colonization also may. So to avoid those things, the exploitation, modern slavery, all those kind of ideas are undermined by the practices of good governance through accountability mechanism, through freedom of association, on the basis of the existence of rule of law with the guidance and alignment of independent judiciary. And apart from this, when I'm going to see, it is not the permanent, temporary executive like a council of ministers or the president or the prime minister. The permanent executives in the name of civil servants, bureaucrat. And their accountability should be also enshrined in this world on the basis of the idea of openness and transparency and other various mechanisms. Bureaucratic accountability also fixed, and when I'm going to fix all those kind of accountability mechanism, the another most important thing, freedom of information can only help people to fix the political accountability, form association, or for managing the rule of law and accountability of bureaucratic structure and all. For that, I need to have the concept of freedom of information, not only collecting information about the government, and the information is very, very necessary for the government also to taking care of the idea of public policies or decision making or any other related performance of the government. And other than that, this good governance practices also inducing to the concept of 3E principle on the basis of sound administration. The first E is talking about efficiency, and second E is talking about effectiveness, and third E is talking about economy. These are all the three important things. The economy is the one which is talking about indirectly the concept against corruption. Efficiency will fix the accountability of bureaucrats and politicians, and effectiveness, how the way the policy formulation and all going to enforce within a country. On the basis of that, a sound administration come into. For that, not only the basic idea, the most important thing in modern era, it is not only the government but also civil society organization. Here, I just want to talk about why and what the need for governance and good governance from 1990s. It is not only LPG era. It is not only the disintegration of Soviet Russia, or it is not only the end of the ideology class in the name of capitalism versus communism or socialism. But the most and most important thing, when I saw the world scenario of administration or government, once upon a time kingship turned into the category of a republican form of government, and in republican form of government on the basis of democratical practices more become the nature of welfare state, welfare government. Even if you look into the constitutional objective of Indian constitution, it's having a very clear objective that taking care of the welfare and well-being of the Indian people is the objective of Indian constitution. So when I'm looking into this idea, the most important thing was that it was a government from 40s or 50s or 60s or 70s focus more on welfare. Without talking good governance, it's focused on welfare and well-being of the people. But after 90s, the term was completely turned into the category of a welfare mechanism government, turned into the category of the withdrawal of government. The government start withdrawing from its own activity because liberalized, privatized, globalized era, the private people will take care of the activities of the government, and government activity will go down, physical activity will go down, but government is having the moral responsibility towards their people to achieve the concept of the efficiency and effectiveness and all on the basis of good governance practices. So during that era, the withdrawal of government, so government activities are going down, keep on. So this is a way, it is a necessary that the government need to go for some idea of good governance practices. There, the concept of corporate social responsibility also came into exist. So this was an interconnection, because when you're going to write mains, no one is going to ask what is good governance. These are all the old idea, 2013-14. Now, once you understand the crux, on the basis of that, the way how UPSC is going to ask a question, you can able to manipulate and exactly give the methods. So in this way, when I'm going to talk about the concept of good governance, I already told you. The good government and good governance are the one which is aiming to achieve the three important things, that is efficiency, effectiveness and economy of the government. While doing so, the good governance is having a practices in the name of various tools. Openness. responsible government, accountable government, also having the democratical mean. So when I'm talking about the democracy, we know very well democracy only strengthens the good governance mechanism. As per the knowledge of Abraham Lincoln, we can able to say by the people, for the people, of the people is a type of idea once upon a time good governance mechanism it is in a democratical country. But right now, private place, liberalized, privatized, globalized world and liberalized companies only want to promote profit, not welfare mechanism and all. Even the government in the modern era throughout the world also, they changing the scenario from the area of democracy 1.0 into 2.0 by the people, for the people, of the people. That was 1.0 democracy in 2.0 democracy, buying people and far away from the people and of the people if they ask too much question. So this is the way the modern scenario of democracy 2.0 is happening in the modern world. So in this context, it became very necessary. Even the meaning of democracy is turning into the category of buying people through paying money for vote. And once you purchase the vote, why I need to come to your constituency? I will be there in my place, far away from my constituency. And if people are troubling me, as a say, voters of my constituency, sometime of the people permanently. So this is the way the situations are happening. So it became very necessary to strengthen the mechanism of privatization, private players, and regulate their activity. So it is very necessary that the one side government its roles are reducing. So what you need to do, civil society organization and their role need to enhanced, and that will help the government to look into another alternative for the government to provide the welfare mechanism. So in this manner, when I'm going to look into the idea of good governance, the good governance and having a clear mentality that it is always aiming for the quality of life of the citizens, no doubt in that one. What are the basic aim? It want to improve the quality of every citizen which is existing in the country. And the way how it want to enhance and effective the economy of the administration. And third important thing, the legitimacy and credibility of every political institution in our country. And freedom of information and expression is another important thing, and another necessary thing that you need to have an organization, a citizen friendly and citizen caring administration by the way of enforcing the concept of accountability with the help of information and technology or the citizen centric ideology. So based on that, automatically the productivity of the employees will go high. So based on that, you can able to achieve the other means of good governance initiative. Okay, so this is a kind of idea. Oh, in this perspective, I can able to see the pluralism kind of idea, multilateral principles, multicultural perspective. A state on one side, market on another side, with the responsibility of civil society organization in the name of NGO, in the name of other various voluntary, involuntary, formal, informal, and other various things. These are all another example we can able to say when I want to look into the methods of good governance mechanism. So in this perspective, when I'm going further, what are the other things that are existing inside it? The way how other different elements are existing in good governance. Because I already told democracy itself is deforming its nature. By the way, 2.0 is talking about buying people far away from the people and off the people permanently. So when I'm going to look into the idea of good governance, the element which exists inside the good governance to achieve or to move forward into a next level. What are the various elements of good governance? So first and foremost important thing, the voice and accountability. So the voice and accountability that the agency should have some kind of accountability mechanism and people need to have their own voice with the help of choice that will help to enhance the civil liberties by the way giving more freedom to people and the press and other various things. And second important thing, the political stability is very necessary for the enforcement of good governance. Political stability. And third important thing, how the way in an effective manner the government can able to make a policy making public service delivery in a quality manner. So one side, the policy making should be very effective to achieve the concept of public services delivery into the nature of total quality management. TQM methods, people will say that total quality management. When I'm discussing about the total quality management, even the quality of regulation will come into force as a next element. On the basis of that, we can able to talk about the idea of rule of law into the nature of the independent judiciary, and finally the element of good governance is nothing more than that to control corruption is a type of idea we have to look into this matter. So good governance is a kind of things is trying to enforce a concept of controlling government. Not more than that. Controlling government. People may think in that manner, controlling government. It's not controlling government. In other sense, I can able to say controlling corruption. By the way, it is going to make a check and balances towards the people. So in this manner, when I want to talk about good governance, for example, when I want to go for the East India Company to talk about the ideas of governance, the objective of East India Company to promote from profit, simply profit making company. None other than that. Nothing more than that. So even though the company which want to promote profit around the 1760s or 65 to 1773, on the basis of corruption mechanism, their activity became very popular throughout the world. Robert Clive, who came to India, British India as an ordinary clerical officer, but at the time of retirement, he became the governor of Bengal. He returned back to United States Kingdom with a huge corrupted money. And people will say as a motivational point that how the way Robert Clive, no one wanted to come to India during the time when plague and other various diseases happened. Robert Clive came as a clerical officer and retired as a governor of Bengal. Its size was more bigger than the current European countries. But the most important problem in a corrupted money, the social isolation came into exist during the time. There was a strong measurement taken by the society itself against the corrupted officials. Finally, he commits suicide. This is the way the end of Robert Clive. A negative example. Control of corruption is a necessity. So, in this perspective, when I want to look into the idea of good governance with the help of the various characteristics it's having in it, the first and foremost important thing, good governance induces a concept of participation mechanism. Participation mechanism. So, on the basis of this participation mechanism, so within the government or the governance are going to happen. So, here the citizens are allowed to participate in terms of decision making process or in terms of feedback mechanism or in terms of participating or giving suggestion in terms of policies and program. For example, right now, the government asked people to give their opinion regarding uniform civil code. So the government asked the people's opinion in what are your opinion regarding uniform civil code that we are planning. Give your suggestion. So a lot of people in positive manner, negative manner, they participate eagerly to stop the uniform civil code or to enforce the uniform civil code. The best example in terms of good governance mechanism, participation of people. And second important thing is that the existence of rule of law is another most important thing. When I'm talking about rule of law from Daisy's point of view, the American, who popularly defined the concept of the rule of law, which helped the Americans to induce a concept of fundamental right. No arbitrary authority, completely, and equal protection will be given to all. The sources for the Indian Constitution or the American Constitution, the source for the Constitution will define the nature of collectivism versus individualism. Rule of law is the idea. So on the basis of that, when I'm going to look into the good governance practices inside a country where the independent judiciaries are very, very necessary, which will act like a referee or umpire, and what way it is going to deviate, it is going to maintain a distance from the executive and legislative in terms of people's developmental perspectives. So the rule of law is the second most important thing after participation. Then the third important thing is that the transparency, how the way the openness and transparencies are going to exist among the people, not only in terms of government, but also in governance, but also in relationship. When transparency comes into exist within the family members, the family member or family never and ever enter into the trouble. When transparency is lagging in family, that lead to divorce, that lead to political instability, that lead to the defamation of the society and its culture and all. These are all another example for good governance. The openness and transparency is a type of things will always induce a concept of good governance mechanism. Then when I'm moving further, the responsive government. The good governance is the one which is talking about the idea of responsive mechanism. Someone should be there to take responsibility of the idea of decision making. For example, there was at the very beginning of India's the corruption related ideology in 1950s when Feroz Shah Gandhi initiated the process regarding his father-in-law's government, and the Nehru government also appointed to fix the responsiveness of civil servants and all, or ministerial responsibility and all, with the help of Justice Chagla committee recommendation, very clearly fix the concept of even the concept of ministerial responsibility and civil services anonymity is a best good governance practice taken by even around 1950s and 60s based government. And another important thing is that equality we can able to achieve. But good governance mechanism is a kind of idea by the way how it is aiming for participation. Through the participation, it want to achieve the concept of equity, social equity or economic equity or political equity among the people. On the basis of that, it want to enforce, enhance and strengthen the mechanism of developmental oriented ideologies. And other than that, when I'm looking into the good governance practices, like the way in introduction we told, good governance practices is an element and character of enhancing effectiveness and efficiency, aligned with the principles of economy. So when I'm going to look into the idea of effectiveness, for example, once upon a time around 1960s or 70s, the line item budget, so it only talks about income, outgoing, expenditure, revenue. But right now, we are going for zero-based budgeting or performance-based budgeting. These are all the ideas strengthening the mechanism of effectiveness and efficiency. Even the way how the government of India right now is enforcing the concept of the sunset legislation in all the centrally sponsored scheme is the best example we can able to say a good governance practices after 2018 the government initiated in terms of effectiveness and efficiency with the help of sunset legislation for all the government schemes and program in terms of centrally sponsored scheme except the MGN or EGM. This is the best mechanism we can able to talk about the good governance mechanism. And another most important thing when I'm talking about the idea of good governance is always into the category of accountability mechanism. So the government is accountable to their people, but not directly. The people are not directly involving into the decision making process. So through their representative, so representatives as a member of parliament, MLA can able to raise a question, ask a question. On the basis of that, you can able to fix an idea of the concept like accountability mechanism, parliament, question hour, 0 hour, short notice question. Parliamentary committees scrutiny, departmental related parliamentary committees, the ad hoc basis committees, financial standing committee, house committee or other various committee, how the way they are maintaining and fixing the concept of accountability. This is another most important thing into the nature of public sector and into the nature of private sector, the way how civil society organization can enhance the mechanism of social auditing after 73rd and 74th Constitutional Amendment Act. That is another best example. Right now, even the public sector, private sector, the social auditing can able to happen to fix the accountability mechanism is the best method how the way India as a country is practicing the good governance mechanism with the help of the limitation of the constitutionalism on the basis of rule of law principle with the alignment of the independent judiciary. So this is the way we can able to talk about the idea of good governance practices. But in this perspective, when I'm going to look into the concept of good governance from the Indian's point of view, I already told you the beginning of 1956 around Feroz Shah Gandhi spoke against his father-in-law's government in terms of corruption. There the practices of good governance came into exist in the name of LIC versus Mundra case. Civil services anonymity, ministerial responsibility is a doctrine came into exist with the help of the idea given by the Chagla Committee recommendation. And after 1990s, the way how the administrative setup took the knowledge of the privatization and globalization and other various parameters, on the basis of that, the role of civil services also transformed into the nature of the good governance initiative and all. So this is another most important thing. Instead of a rule-based mechanism, a rule-based traditional bureaucracy, it turned into the nature of the citizen-centered bureaucracy. On the basis of enforcing the concept of transparency with the help of Right to Information Act or with the help of the existence of citizen charter since 1996 onward, 97 onwards, these are all the best practices in terms of good governance. We can able to say even the most important thing is that the 73rd and 74th Constitutional Amendment Act, which gave a constitutional legality to the local people's participation, grassroots level governance and grass with the root is a type of idea came into exist. And through the 74th Constitutional Amendment, a social auditing can also possible in India is another best example. Based on that, we can able to look into the concept of the existence of the good governance mechanism. So in this perspective, there are various committees and commission also talks about it. It's not only the Chakla committee, and it was first the Secretariat Reorganization Committee 1947 first talk about this idea. And Gopal Swami Iyengar Committee on Reorganization of Government Machinery 1949 also talked about this idea. Then the Gorawala Committee in 1951. And apart from this, the way how a person from America, USA, Mr. Paul Appleby, who came to India, and he also made lot of recommendation to the government of India to strengthen the good governance mechanism. One among them, the creation of a separate Department of Administrative Reform or the creation of Administrative Reform Commission or the necessary of Indian Institute of Public Administration and etc. is the best example we can able to say how even not only after 1990s, before also India had a practices of good governance mechanism. And in this perspective, even the 1970s, during the time the first ARC came into Administrative Reform Commission. And in the recent past in 21st century, 2005, the second Administrative Reform Commission, otherwise called as Veerappa Moily Commission, came into exist. These are all the areas strengthen the mechanism of a Department of Personnel and Training into the category of a complete Ministry of Personnel and Training and Administrative Reform, Public Grievances and Pension Welfare. So this is the way the government gave ultimate importance to good governance. And other than that, when I'm going to look into the 64 initiative of creation of Central Vigilance Commission with the help of Santanam Committee and Central Bureau of Investigation, even the coining the term of Lokpal came into exist in 1962 around by Mr. L.M. Singhvi. He was the first Indian who coined the term Lokpal in 1962-63 is another best example we can able to talk about the idea of good governance mechanism. So in this perspective, it was in 1996, after the formation of the LPG era, after the induction of the concept of liberalization, privatization, globalization, led into the nature of LPG era, led into the nature of 73rd and 74th Constitutional Amendment Act, and after that, the induction of World Trade Organization 1995. So, in this particular background, it became compulsory that the government is going to reduce its activity. So, we have to strengthen the good governance mechanism in various ways. So, 97, the chief ministers and chief secretaries conference which happened in Delhi, it deliberately initiated some mechanism towards good governance. On the basis of that, they accepted the process of citizen charter in every government offices and all. So 1997, citizen charter as a best good governance mechanism came into exist. But originally in 1992, around the John Major government was the one who initiated the process of citizen charter in United Kingdom. There only we borrow the ideas of citizen charter. But after 1998, even the John Major government has gone and Tony Blair government came into existence in UK. That government changed the parameters of citizen charter into the service first kind of initiative. These are all the things we will slowly learn in the regular classes. But the most important thing, the citizen charter is the first initiative after LPG era, after World Trade Organization, the government of India took it. So it is a charter information where whenever you are going to the government offices to reduce the time delay, to reduce the red tapeism, to eliminate the corruption and all, and timely completion of the project, openness and transparency, the government of India initiated in the name of good governance mechanism. And other than that, this is a mechanism to redress the problems of people. But what about there is a monetary mechanism or there is a cell in order to redress the problems of citizens and all? Okay, citizen charter is there. If I am not satisfied, to whom I need to approach, where I can able to go there, how I can able to rectify. For this purpose only, the Directorate of Public Grievances has set up the Cabinet Secretariat in 1988 into the nature of the public grievances redressal mechanism is a type of idea came in. Then other than that, the way how modern era came into existence in 20th century, 21st century, even the information communication era, on the basis of that, the information and communication technology is a type of idea. On the basis of that, even I can able to say the Madhya Pradesh government who initiated the Gyan Doot is a type of initiative, information initiative, or India's first e-governance project in the name of e-Bhumi project by Karnataka government is the best example we can able to say how the tools and techniques regarding information and communication technology came into existence. So in this particular line as an initiative regarding good governance in 2002 around after the assassination of S. Dubey, on the basis of that the Freedom of Information Bill also introduced. On the basis of that the government of India also passed certain things in the name of Information Act. Later that was completely converted into the category of Right to Information Act 2005. But the Information Bill 2001 and 2 was initiated by even the state like Rajasthan, Madhya Pradesh and Karnataka. And later part only in 2005 for the whole India level, the concept like RTI came into existence with the help of government initiative. So RTI is a major tool. Even till today we can able to say through the awareness program, through the popularity available in people's hand, but citizen charter is also there with the people since 1997. But the problem inside that one, there is no popularity mechanism, there is no proper awareness about citizen charter based on that people are not having that much love. So in this background, when I'm continuing with the process of people's participation and decentralization and all. So when I'm going to look into this people's participation and decentralization, The way how it became the good governance mechanism by the way the creation of the 73rd and 74th, which induces the concept of democracy by the way how Grama Sabha is a basic unit of Panchayat Raj is a type of idea came into exist for the decentralized people participation method that also we borrowed it from a Landsgemeinde methods of Germany, Switzerland. From there only we borrowed this method. The Grama Sabha is a basic unit of Panchayat, is borrowed it from Switzerland. So people's participation, direct participation of all the adolescent age who reach the 18 years of age, who enrolled themselves into the category of voter list, will automatically become the members of Panchayat Raj Grama Sabha. That is a type of idea. So in this background, when I'm looking into the concept of the good governance mechanism, we need to discuss in various way and various attributes and all. Okay, but the necessary point is that when I'm going to look into the perspective of good governance, there are some kind of negativity also coming into force towards an idea of good governance. When I'm talking about the criticism regarding good governance, it is a type of idea after the impact of LPG era came into exist. So it want to go for some kind of socio-economic integration of the whole world into the nature of Vasudeva Kudumbakam and all. But in otherwise, some people are thinking that the way how the world scenarios are keep on changing in a dynamic nature. So there is always a possibility the good governance also turned into the category of bad government, bad governance and all. There is always a possibility that civil society failed to do their own activities and all. So in this perspective, when I'm looking into the ideas of the negativity towards good governance, there are some clear idea. The concept like good governance is not familiar with the area of political science, but it is an idea borrowed from the area of public administration. So there are some kind of academic classes between people among the political science fraternity as well as the public administration fraternity regarding the acceptance of good governance at the initial state. But second important thing, the more important problem, the way how we are going to accept the concept of good governance. But in practicality, is very, very difficult because the good governance itself is a very broad category. It is not easy to define and it is easy to practice in a simple manner. And the third important thing is that the governance is a kind of idea is frightened with the concept of the value system. Value system, value-based initiatives and all. So that is the reason the constitutional morality is a type of area even asked in ethics for 2 times in UPSC history since 13 to 20. But right now in 22 mains, UPSC asked in polity area that how they weigh the constitutional morality in terms of judicial pronouncement. So the value-based system, the ethical value system, because when I'm seeing the concept of government, there is always a possibility that the value system need to eliminate from politics is an old idea. Politics should not have any kind of value system. But when I'm going to talk about the governance, it is an implementation of politics only and policy making only. There, the value systems are very, very necessary. So we need to have some kind of legal method to control those kind of mechanism. But there is always a possibility of lack of control mechanism and all. And apart from this, when I'm going to look into the process of governance, governance is a kind of idea always interconnected with the private management and even the profit making mentality. So in this perspective, the governance is a type of idea is inducing the concept of profit making motive and all. So based on that, still there are some kind of problem among the people because when I'm talking about government, it never bother about profit. It is not for profit organization in the name of civil society or government is in its department is promoting the idea of welfare mechanism. So definitely in terms of governance, we cannot strengthen the idea of economy, effectiveness and efficiency inside the government schemes and programs and policy making and all. This is another problematic things in terms of the flaws we can able to say when I'm discussing about the ideas of the good governance initiatives. So what we can able to conclude? And really, if you want to say that the existence of good governance is not an ordinary thing, it is an extraordinary creative intervention and participation by the people. So it's an intervention and participation, not simply in order to enhance the legitimacy concept, but apart from this, the involvement of people on one side, various institutions on another side, and the existence of the government, even beyond the government, is also going to, with the help of the flexibility mechanism and providing service system in an extraordinary manner, with the help of achieving the concept of the cost effective methods of economy and effectiveness and efficiency, can able to bring the idea of good governance as the most successful and most popular one in the modern era. Okay, so based on that, in coming classes also, we will continue the discussions in various way. So at this process, I'm ending the process of good governance. In next session, we will meet again. Thank you all. Jai Hind.